In this video, we're going to look at some percentage shortcuts you can use when you're working these types of problems, especially if they don't let you use a calculator. So let's look at some basic ideas here. So things to know. You're given a number of this format, or problem of this format, A% of some number B. That's the same thing as A over 100 times B. And notice I can switch these around, but B over 100, A over 1. So A% of B is the same thing as B% of A. So that means if I give you, say, something very basic, 10% of 100, it's the same thing as 10% of 100. The of means multiply. So when you're working with percents, you change it to a regular decimal. So I can rewrite this as 0.10 times 100. The regular multiplication there, that's the same thing as 1/10. 0.10 is the same thing as 1/10. This is 10. Now let's switch this around. What if I say 100% of 10 would be 100% times 10? Well, 100% means the whole thing. So 100% of 10 is going to be 10. Get the same answer. Now if I write this as a decimal, I would drop the percent sign and move the decimal over 2 places. That would give me 1. 1 times 10 is 10. So one technique you can use is you can switch the order of these. We'll look at this in the problems when we get to. Again, keep in mind that if you have 25.2%, when you work with percents, you have to eliminate the percent sign, make it into a regular decimal. So we drop this. This means the percent sign means divided by 100. So that would be the same thing as 25.2 divided by 100. So if you drop the percent sign, you move the decimal over 2 places to the left. Get 20.2 or 0.252. Going back the other way, to write the 0.252 as a percent, we would move the decimal over 2 places to the right. Because what we're doing is we're multiplying by 100 and dividing by 100. So if I multiply this by 100 and divide by 100, 100 times 0.252 is 25.2, and then you're left with 1 over 100. But that's your percent sign. So that's why we say if you have a percent and you want to write it as a regular decimal, move the decimal over 2 places to the left and drop the percent sign. And just do the opposite if you're going the other way. If you have 0.252 and you want it as a percent, move the decimal over 2 places to the right and add the percent sign, because that's the same thing as dividing by 100. So the other thing that would help you is to know these ideas here. 25. Know the equivalent. If you're given a percent like 25 over 100, know the equivalent is a fraction. 25% is the same thing as, again, the percent sign means divide by 100. So this would be 25. 25% then can be written as 25 over 100. You can reduce that. 25 into 25 is 1. 25 into 100 gives you the 1/4. Let's do the 50%. 50% means 50 over 100. That's 1/2. 75% is 75 over 100. And 75 over 100 reduces. Divide the numerator and denominator by 25. 25 into 75 is 3. 25 into 100 is 4. So 75% is equivalent to 3/4. Now let's look at the other ones. 33 1/3% is 1/3. Now how do they get that? Well, let's rewrite this as a improper fraction. So multiply 3 times 33 is 99 and 1 is 100. So that gives me 100 over 3. And the percent sign means divide by 100. So I just write it as 1 over 100. These divide out, and that equals to 1/3. And then on this one here, do the same thing with this one. 66 times 3 is 198, and then 2 more I'm changing 66 and 2/3 into an improper fraction. So 3 times 66 is 198, and 2 is 200. So that gives me 200 over 3. And the percent sign means divide by 100. So I just write it times 1 over 100. Same thing. And then here, these divide out and leave me 2/3. So let's go to these problems now. Let's say they ask you to work this out. 44% of 50 is what number? Well, again, if you had your calculator, let's use a calculator, you could write this as point with the decimal 2 places, 0.44 times 50. But again, let's say you were working problems and they told you don't use a calculator. Again, I can switch this around and just put this percent over here. That's the same thing as saying 50% of 44. Half of 44 is 22. So the answer is 22. If you multiply 0.44 times 50, you also get 22. So it works the same way. Next one is similar. 30% of 50, again, you can multiply this as 0.3 or 0.30 times 50. Or you could just say, let's switch it around, make it easier. Say it's 50%. 50% of 30 is what number? 15. Next one, what is 4% of 75? Again, this is one digit here, so you can multiply it out. But again, if you use this technique where you can switch these, make this 75%. So we write it as 75% of 4. But remember, we just saw that 75% is equivalent to the fraction 3 over 4. So you just multiply these. Now we want 75% of 4. It's the same thing as 3/4 of 4. And write it this way so you can see it. Divide these out. This equals to 3. Now suppose I told you this one. 75% of 33 1/3. Get the answer to this without a calculator. Well, again, switch it around and rewrite this as 33 1/3% of 75 is what number? And we just saw that 33 1/3 is the same thing as the equivalent to, or 33 1/3% is equivalent to the fraction 1/3. So that's the same thing as saying 1/3 of means times. So this will be of 75. And 1/3 of 75 is 25, 25 is 50, and 25 more is 75. So this is 25. Okay, the next one. 66 2/3% of 12. We just saw that 66 2/3% is equivalent to 2/3. So this one, I don't have to switch it around. I just leave it the way it is. And use the fact that this is the same thing as 2/3. So it's 2/3 of, that means times 12. So 3 into 12 goes 4. This is 1. 2 times 4 is 8 over 1. This is 8. Okay, those are some of the shortcuts you can use when working percentage problems. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.